Euromaxx highlights. Coming up on the show, this old house, the famous Lego building brick, turns 50. Still going strong, the indestructible Tempo delivery truck turns 80. Congratulations, Irish singer and composer Burgh turns 60. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the show from our studios here in the German capital. And that's where we're staying for the first report. 66 top fashion photographers are at the centre of a new exhibition at the Camera Work Gallery here in Berlin that spans 9 decades of fashion photography. Their work has been featured on the covers of internationally renowned magazines like Elle, Vogue and Wallpaper, and Peter Lindbergh, Helmut Newton, Anton Corbijn and Bruce Weber are just some of the big names featured. We got a local star to give us his take on the industry.
This is German fashion photographer Joachim Baldauf. His produced style is in great demand, whether in advertising campaigns for Levi's or photo series for the design magazine Wallpaper. Today, Baldauf is taking pictures for his own magazine, Foreign. The model's eyes are adorned with black makeup and plastic wrap. Is this still fashion photography?
Fashion photography is fashion photography when it has some relationship to fashion. It doesn't necessarily have to show fashion. You can photograph a green meadow and write Chanel underneath it. That would be fashion photography too, because it's about content, lifestyle and feelings.
The Camera Work Gallery in Berlin is devoting a whole exhibition to those feelings. More than 250 works by 66 photographers display the trends over 9 decades of fashion history. Photography that shows more than just fashion. Joachim Baldauf has a diptych of Claudia Schiffer at the exhibition.
I asked what remains of the icon Claudia Schiffer if you don't show all of her. Without the eye, only the hair and mouth can be seen. Is she still recognizable? And she was indeed. Her recognizability is so great that her mouth alone is enough, and people recognize her.
Claudia Schiffer's rise to icon status began in the 1990s, the era of the supermodels. And the super photographers like German Peter Lindbergh. His photo for the Italian Vogue, the world's highest earning models in simple shirts, is considered a symbol of the whole decade.
The models were no longer just models, they were like rock stars. They were simply stars. It was no longer a question of having worked in their profession, of being paid to present clothes. That was suddenly no longer the issue. If you had a Linda Evangelista, your fashion label was automatically in. It was very simple. It was no longer a question of the photography, but of which model was in the picture.
Man Ray's classic 1932 photo, Tears. The gallery is also showing the beginnings, fashion photography from the 1920s and 30s. Back then it was magazine photography. Today it's considered art, abstract, stylized worlds, the model as sculpture. At first glance, pure elegance. A closer look reveals real life. The American Irvin Penn wanted to provoke. Out of the studio and into the real life of the 1940s.
Fashion photography inspires you to dream. It takes you away into a dream world. I think that it's magic. Simply experiencing things you otherwise wouldn't. You have a certain idea. You see the picture and you can imagine how it was at the time, especially with the photos from the 1950s.
Photography in the first post-war decade turned film stars into icons. The late 60s and the hippie movement brought change, introducing women's lib and giving the fairer sex a new image. From then on, photographers depicted their models as erotic, strong, and self-determined women.
Fashion photography and fashion have definitely influenced society because they showed what the society was doing. And that's the task of the fashion photographer, to show what the society is like. Actually, it's like photojournalism, but very glorified, very abstract, and with a different pictorial language.
Fashion photography. More than beautiful women in beautiful pictures, Baldauff's current works are the eyewitnesses for tomorrow.
And staying with things that are first and foremost pleasing to the eye, the Gestalten publishing house makes some of the most beautiful books on the market. The company specialises in what can loosely be termed coffee table art books. Because they have an eye for what's in visually at the moment, they are now successful on a global level. Gestalten is based here in Berlin, but first of all we went to see them in Frankfurt at the world's biggest book fair.
More than 280,000 people are expected to attend the 60th Frankfurt Book Fair. The Gestalten publishing house is a real magnet. Its photo books reveal the latest trends in international art, design, and architecture. The works are in demand the world over.
They are so distinguished in layout and designs so much. So working as a buyer for Japanese market, I found their books to be suitable for our market, as their publications themselves are like artworks themselves.
Gestalten wants its books to set trends. The spirit of the times is what counts, whether the artists are unknown or in huge demand, like German artist Martin Eder. Robert Klanten, the publisher's business manager, is on his way to work in Berlin's Kreuzberg district. He and two friends founded Gestalten 11 years ago as a student project. Now it has branch offices in Tokyo, London, and New York. Its secret of success? Speed.
We try to produce the books with as short a deadline as possible. That means we work on a project for half a year, from developing the theme to publication. And that way we can anticipate many trends, and we can develop them so that our publications are in magazines or on the internet before many others.
In order to achieve that, Gestalten has built up a worldwide network. 40 staff members are constantly looking for the latest trends in design and architecture. The company publishes about 30 books a year, most of them in English. Argentinian designer Mario Lombardo has worked with Gestalten for 8 years. His publications with the company have led to other commissions.
If you want to continue developing as a designer, you have to compare what the others are doing. And you can do that wonderfully with the Gestalten books. There are parallel worlds, France, Japan, or South America.
Robert Klanten keeps a close eye on the art scene so he can be the first to spot new currents.
The great thing is that they are very spontaneous, and Robert lives absolutely in my world, or in the world of designers. He knows everything, he knows everyone, and he knows what's coming next.
The photo books from Gestalten are real eye-catchers, aesthetically pleasing and bound in high-quality materials.
The cover is very important with books. If a book isn't seen, and the booksellers don't present it, no one buys it. But we also always try to have a book's cover have something to do with what's inside. This is a good example. The book by Arne Quince, whose sculptures have this shade of red. It was his trademark when he was a graffiti sprayer, and so we used this red to make the book itself a kind of sculpture.
Skulptur im Buch zu schaffen.
Gestalten now gets commissions from major companies and designer labels because their trend scouts also know who's ahead of the game.
Now, right at the beginning of the show, we mentioned 3 anniversaries, and we come to the first one now. You can find it in children's bedrooms all over the world, and it keeps them busy for hours on end. Lego plastic building bricks. All you need is a bit of imagination, which children tend to have in bucket loads, and there's no limit to the cool things you can make. Lego is celebrating its 50th anniversary, and perhaps the most extraordinary thing about it in this fast-moving world is that the basic design of the Lego brick has never changed.
This small plastic toy brick with its stud and hole design is a design icon. Mathematicians have calculated that there are over 915 million ways of combining 6 of these bricks. Lego celebrates its 50th anniversary this year. To mark the occasion, 35 children from around the world paid a visit to Billund in Denmark, where the company has its headquarters. The word Lego comes from the Danish leg gå, which means play well. And that's exactly what the youngsters are doing. They're building landmarks of their respective countries with Lego. 7-year-old Frederik Seliger comes from Germany.
I'm building Cologne Cathedral. These are the coloured windows. My dad also used to play with Lego, and he turned me into a Lego fan too.
Legoland is just nearby. It opened in 1968 and has used 50 million Lego bricks since then. It's a constantly changing Lego landscape. The original Lego brick was rectangular. These days there are 2,400 different shapes and sizes. This is a model of Copenhagen. But for all the many types of Lego there are, the basic stud and hole principle has never changed. Katharina Such is a Lego expert.
Today's Lego bricks still fit with the old ones from 50 years ago. So if Grandad clears out his attic and finds his old Lego bricks, his grandchildren would be able to mix them up with their own bricks, because they still fit. The only difference is that there are more colors these days.
Ole Kirk Christiansen was the founder of Lego and inventor of its trademark brick. He was looking for a non-flammable substitute for wood and discovered a plastic composite that proved ideal. Germany was the first country to import Lego. This commercial praising the virtues of the toy brick dates back to 1958.
Und alle machen mit, die ganze Familie. Alle bauen, groß und klein, bauen mit dem Lego-Stein.
Lego bricks are evidently still an inspiration for the more creative among us. They're now the basis of an entire genre, brick films. They're popular on the internet. One of the best known is a Lego version of the early H.G. Wells sci-fi classic The Time Machine.
There was the Steven Spielberg Movie Maker set a while back, and it still appears to be really popular, especially among people who make these stop-motion films. The great thing is that these days you can use your own digital camera to put it together, and people are investing a lot of time. Every movement has to be filmed separately.
Professional filmmakers like Michel Gondry have likewise discovered the potential of Lego. In 2002, he directed an entire Lego-based video for American band The White Stripes. The Lego brick. 50 years after its invention, it's still as big a hit as ever, with the young and old alike. It provides an endless range of options, all born from one simple original design.
Lego has a simple design, and so does our next birthday boy, the Tempo truck. But the name is something of a contradiction in terms, because the Tempo was anything but speedy. A delivery truck with only 3 wheels, it has gone down in German transportation history as a vehicle that stuck to the basics and went a long way. It was very much a part of the economic recovery here in Germany after the Second World War. There are plenty of them elsewhere in the world, but here there are just 80 still on the roads, and that's exactly how old this intrepid little truck is.
A Tempo roars down Hamburg's streets with a whopping 12 horsepower under the hood. It's an unusual sight, 3 wheels when you might expect 4. The Tempo truck is not for people in a hurry. It's a blast from the past, and today it enjoys cult status. A Tempo driver is soon in conversation with passers-by.
I was still pretty young, and it was fantastic to see this car. Because you hadn't seen any before. These were the first cars back on the streets. It was wonderful.
City streets are always a challenge for Tempo drivers.
I pay a lot of attention to potholes, irregular surfaces, manhole covers. I try to drive around them.
Stop-and-go traffic is not ideal for these vehicles.
A Hamburg museum is currently staging an exhibition on the history of the 3-wheeled trucks. Tempo drivers have shown up from all over Germany. Most of the people who drive Tempos nowadays have spent years restoring them.
I have a clear memory of the milkman in my childhood. He drove a vehicle like this, and I can still hear the characteristic sound of its motor. And the first time I saw the vehicle again, in 1975, all those memories came streaming back.
The Tempo has no heater, no ventilation, and no radio. But even if it did, you wouldn't be able to hear it. The driver's cab is decidedly Spartan. There are only 5 of these wood-paneled Tempo station wagons left in the world. Aficionados compare it to the blue Mauritius of the stamp collecting world.
Tempo trucks drove the Federal Republic of Germany out of the ruins of World War II and into the economic miracle. Every small business had one. They were used to transport scrap metal and vegetables. With the rise in the standard of living that came with the economic miracle, people moved on to other vehicles.
In the late 1940s, every 3rd truck in Germany was a Tempo. The 3-wheelers were tax-free, and you didn't have to have a license to drive one. Max Vidal and his son Oskar founded the company in Hamburg in 1928. The last German Tempo rolled off the assembly line in 1962. In India, they were still produced until the year 2000, and they're still a common sight in India today. But in Germany, there are only 80 registered Tempo 3-wheelers. Tempos have a legendary weakness. If they're not carrying a load, they tend to tip over.
You can't fool the rules of physics. If I drive a sports car into a curve too fast, it'll tip over. And if I drive too fast with a 3-wheeler, and too fast is not very fast, then it turns over too. That's just how it is.
Driving a Tempo truck is a journey back in time. And though the ride may be rough, anyone who has succumbed to its charm is glad to repeat the experience time and time again. If you have any opinions or ideas you'd like to share with us regarding Euromaxx, then we'd really like to hear from you. You can mail your comments to DWTV, Euromaxx, Woltestrasse 6, 13355, Berlin, Germany. Or you can fax us at 49 for Germany, 30 for Berlin, 46466505. If you prefer to email us, it's euromaxx.english@dw-world.de. No attachments, please. We're always happy to get your feedback, no matter how it arrives.
And our final anniversary today is a celebration of the Irish singer-songwriter Chris de Burgh, who's just turned 60. His greatest hit was about a lady in red, inspired by his wife Diane, who he saw across a disco dance floor in a red dress. With this, another soft rock classics, Christer Burgh has kept his fans happy in a long and illustrious career. This November, his newest album will come out in Germany, several months before the UK release. We met up with him here in Berlin.
Christer Burgh is successful, famous, and modest. He's sold some 45 million records to date. His ballads capture people's hearts. Lady in Red brought him international fame in 1986.
Lady in Red is dancing with me, cheek to cheek. There's nobody here.
Many consider it one of the most beautiful love songs ever written.
I think the perception that a lot of people have, it's the only song I ever wrote, and I've been making a career out of one ballad. And the thing is, if you come to one of my concerts, you'll see that it's high energy. There's some ballads, of course, but there's some lots of Don't Pay the Ferryman, high in emotion, big rock songs.
Christer Burgh has released 17 albums. His keys to success are his catchy melodies and his friendly image. He's a talented singer and live entertainer.
Ship to shore, do you read me anymore? This flight is bad and fading. Ship to shore, answer my call.
The payback, in a way, is being on stage and seeing people smiling. It's as simple as that. It's a wonderful thing to know that you're making people go home, get in their cars, they say, oh, that was great.
In 1983, Chris had another big hit with Don't Pay the Ferryman.
Don't Pay the Ferryman was an idea. I wanted to have a song that was breathless. It sort of started and finished, and you say, whoa, what was that? Because when it finishes, don't pay the ferryman. Oh.
Don't pay the ferryman. Don't even fix that price. Don't pay the ferryman until he gets you to the other side.
And I like the idea of people saying, what the hell was that? And for me, of course, I can see what's happening. It's like a film of a man going to his destiny. It's a point that everyone has in their lives. You reach a point where you have to make a decision.
His latest album is a collection of cover versions of his favorite songs. And because he treads in the footsteps of his musical heroes, that's what the album is called. Footsteps.
Do everything, turn, turn, turn.
Turn, Turn, Turn is one of his favorite hits, recorded in 1965 by the US band The Burghs.
And a time to every purpose under heaven.
The criteria was three. One, obviously, songs that I've learned from, because songwriting is a craft. You need to learn from the greatest, and I'm still learning, how to make a song. Really, it was like making a beautiful piece of furniture. The second thing is I had to love the song, something that really meant a lot to me, and each one has a story behind it. And the third thing was I had to sing it a lot.
The long and winding road that leads to your door will never disappear.
Chris's favorite Beatles song is The Long and Winding Road from 1970. 4 years later, his own career took off, and 30 years on, he still loves his work.
I suppose I would have to consider stopping singing when I can't sing anymore, or when an audience doesn't want to hear me singing anymore. I hope that day is a long time away.
Where have all the flowers gone?
Where Have All the Flowers Gone by Pete Seeger is also one of Chris's favorites.
Where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago.
Next year, Christy Burgh goes back on tour, and then his fans can listen to his all-time favorites live.
Cheers.
Those were our highlights of the week. Glad you could join us. Don't forget you'll find this programme on YouTube if you want to see any of it again. But that's all for now from me and the rest of the team here in Berlin. Thanks for watching and hope to see you again next time. Bye-bye.